Did God really send a goat toward darkness, or have we misunderstood one of Scripture's most mysterious rituals?
For centuries, this passage confused readers because it sounds like something holy moving in the direction of something unclean.
Tonight we remove assumptions and read carefully, because the truth here is stronger than the fear people attach to it.
Scripture never teaches God accepted offerings to demons, so the ritual cannot be worship, tribute, or a bargain with evil.
The question comes from Leviticus 16, where the Day of Atonement stands apart from every other instruction in the Torah.
This day was not a festival of noise, but a day of silence, fasting, and careful movements under sacred warning. At the center stand two goats, matching and equal, so no one can claim one was better before the choice was made.
One lot falls for the Elobard, and the other falls for Azazel, and that second name is where the debate begins.
People hear that word and assume it must be a dark power, but the text itself does not treat it as worship.
We will follow the ritual step by step, then test the meaning of Azazel, and only then ask what God is teaching through it.
Kippur is about covering and cleansing, not pretending sin never happened, but confronting it and dealing with it completely.
This was the one day the high priest entered the Holy of Holies, because guilt could not be handled casually in God's presence.
The two pygmy goats showed two directions. One addresses guilt before God, and the other removes corruption away from the people.
The first goat is sacrificed, and the blood enters sacred space, teaching that guilt has cost and holiness is not cheap. The ritual even cleanses the sanctuary, revealing a hard truth. Human corruption reaches farther than we like to admit.
Then the second goat stands alive, and the priest places hands on its head while confession is spoken out loud.
This is not denial. Sin is named, acknowledged, and symbolically placed on something outside the community.
The goat is led away into the wilderness, not for spectacle, but to make removal visible to everyone watching.
Notice what Scripture never adds. No prayer to Azazel, no altar for Azazel, no act of devotion directed at Azazel. The pattern is controlled and deliberate. Guilt is addressed before God, and then what defiles is carried away from the community. If the point is removal, why does the text name the destination? And why does it choose the wilderness as the place to send it?
Here we slow down, because misunderstanding Azazel can turn a cleansing ritual into a false story of appeasement.
Historically, readers land in three main understandings: Azazel as removal, Azazel as a place.
The first view treats the word as function. The goat is the sent-away goat, emphasizing distance, dismissal, and finality.
Under this view, the meaning is simple. Forgiven sin is separated, not stored nearby, not kept for later accusation.
But even if the word means send away, the wilderness still matters, because Scripture chooses that geography for a reason.
The second view reads Azazel as a named location, a harsh, solitary place.
In Scripture, wilderness is the edge of cultivated order. No walls, no crops, no safety, so sending sin.
Leviticus calls it a solitary land, not a sacred land, which signals exile and removal rather than any kind of honor.
These first two views reinforce each other. Sin is confessed, assigned, and then driven out of the community's space.
The third view begins here, asking why Scripture allows a named destination that feels like a confrontation rather than a simple instruction. Under this view, the ritual is a declaration. Impurity is expelled from God's dwelling and pushed toward the realm associated with exile.
Even here, we stay disciplined. The Bible never calls this worship, so any dark exchange theory fails the text immediately.
The ritual draws a boundary. Holiness remains inside the camp, and whatever defiles is pushed outside, away from God's dwelling. Nothing in the wilderness receives honor. The goat is simply removed, which makes the meaning closer to judgment than to offering. The ritual is not a coin flip between God and evil. It is a single ceremony designed by God with two coordinated outcomes. The Day of Atonement treats sin as contamination that must be addressed, cleansed, and removed, not merely regretted. Mercy here has structure. Reconciliation first, removal second, so the forgiven can live without the stain lingering nearby.
Actually, blood drops away. Once the fear drops away, the question changes from who got an offering to
The ritual teaches that sin is not ignored, not minimized, and not recycled. It is confronted and then removed. It unsettles people because it sends something outward, but that outward movement is the visual language of cleansing.
The goal is not to satisfy darkness, but to keep God's dwelling clean among his people, with sin pushed away. This two-part pattern does not end in Leviticus. It becomes the framework later writers use to explain redemption. Isaiah speaks the same logic. Guilt is laid on another, not because God ignores sin.
The two goats become a key. One part answers guilt before God, and the other part removes the burden from the people. The sacrificial goat shows that forgiveness is not weightless. Justice is acknowledged, and guilt is addressed before a holy God. The living salmon goat shows something else. Sin is not only covered, it is carried away, separated from God's people. That is why later Scripture highlights outside the gate, because removal happens beyond the boundary, away from sacred space.
None of this requires appeasing evil. The Bible's logic is cleansing and authority, not negotiation and tribute.
If guilt is addressed and removed, then condemnation has no place to stand, because the burden is no longer in the camp. Many people live like their own prosecutor, carrying what God already removed, as if forgiveness were only partial. The ritual shows confession is not humiliation. It is truth spoken in God's presence, so healing can move forward.
And then removal is God's action, not ours. He drives the burden away so it loses jurisdiction over the forgiven.
So Azazel matters, not as a receiver of worship, but as a signpost pointing to exile and separation from holiness.
Up to this point, the logic is solid. The ritual confronts sin, pays a cost, and then removes the burden from the camp.
The audio is set. The audio is a cinematic documentary soundtrack featuring a deep, calm.
In Christian reading, Jesus fulfills both goats, addressing guilt before God and carrying the burden away from God's people.
The language of outside echoes the scapegoat path, because removal is not just forgiveness spoken, but separation enacted. With that framework, the goat to Satan claim collapses, because the Bible's own logic never supports appeasement. The ritual proclaims divine authority. Sin is named, judged, and removed under God's command, not under evil's permission.
This matters because many believers still live like the burden is nearby, even after God says it has been carried away. Biblical forgiveness is not mood management. It is release and restoration, a verdict that changes how you stand before God. If God removes sin, replaying forgiven failure is not humility. It is distrust wearing spiritual clothing.
The longhorn goat never returns to the camp, and that is the lesson. What God removes is not meant to live beside you. The pattern is simple. Confess honestly, accept God's cleansing, and stop carrying what He says has been driven out.
Shame says you are permanently stained, but the Day of Atonement says God's cleansing is complete when He declares it complete.
Fear thrives on confusion, but Scripture rewards careful reading, because God's rituals reveal mercy, not hidden darkness.
The ritual moves in order. Cost is acknowledged, sin is confessed, and the burden is removed from the community's space.
Azazel does not have to mean a receiver of worship. It functions as removal and destination, exile, not tribute. The New Testament reads this as fulfillment. Sacrifice and removal meet, and cleansing becomes personal, permanent, and complete. If you believed God truly removes what you confess, what would change in how you pray, obey, and live tomorrow? Living forgiven means living released, not trying to repay what has already been addressed, and not dragging yesterday into today.
The whole point is restored fellowship, God dwelling with cleansed people, because the burden has been removed from the center. When we add fear-based theories to Scripture, we create a darker story than God wrote, and we miss the mercy He revealed. God did not send a goat as tribute to evil. He revealed a pattern of cleansing. Take a moment and ask what you keep carrying, because the scapegoat image was meant to help you release what God removes.
Confess honestly, receive God's cleansing, and then walk forward as someone whose status has changed, not someone still on trial.
Accusation feeds on unfinished business, but the Day of Atonement teaches completion, addressed before God and removed from the camp. This freedom is not careless. It is built on truth and accountability, because confession comes before cleansing and removal. This ancient ritual still teaches because it puts theology into motion, showing with images what words alone can't always carry. The Angora goat is not sent to empower evil. It is sent away from the people to display God's cleansing and restored order.
If this clarified a passage you've avoided, subscribe to Bible at Dawn and tap the bell for more text-verse teaching.
Drop your questions in the comments, because careful reading grows stronger when we test ideas against the text together. And share this with someone carrying guilt, because the scapegoat image was meant to teach freedom, not fear. Picture it clearly. The burden moves away until it disappears, and the camp remains, clean and restored. Mercy is not pretending. Mercy is cleaning, truth named, justice honored, and then the stain removed from God's dwelling.
When you read Leviticus 16 with the whole Bible in view, the mystery becomes a message of cleansing and hope.
The ritual teaches a complete process: confession spoken, cleansing provided, and the burden removed, so fellowship can be restored.
Don't live as if the burden still belongs to you. Walk in the freedom God declares when He says, "It is removed." God did not send Angora goat to empower darkness. He revealed a cleansing pattern that ends in restored